Sniper suspects John Muhammad and John Lee Malvo are currently awaiting separate trials in Virginia. But in the Pacific Northwest, where Muhammad trained in the military and was twice married, people who spent time with the suspects find it hard to believe they could have been responsible for last month's killings. Early Show national correspondent John Frankel has more on the suspects and the people who knew them.
This man that's being portrayed as a killer certainly was not the person that I'd met.
And there was really nothing about John and Lee that would make me not trust him.
They were, at the time, two of the nicest guys I'd come across.
Nice guys, polite, well-mannered. The people in the Pacific Northwest saw one side of John Muhammad and Lee Malvo. But even then, the killing may have already begun. Muhammad's life had disintegrated, failed marriages, failed jobs, and the two landed here at this homeless shelter in Bellingham, Washington. During the summer and fall of 2001, Muhammad and Malvo lived here. The impression people had of Muhammad, he was a man down on his luck, but a hard worker.
The type of person that you probably would have taken home for dinner.
Greg Grant employed John Muhammad as a day laborer while he was living at the Lighthouse Mission.
He was a great worker. He was clean cut. He was very well mannered.
By this time, Muhammad was becoming a father figure to 17-year-old Lee Malvo, just as he was fighting a losing battle with his second wife for custody of their 3 kids. Jay Mills was Muhammad's lawyer.
Do you think if he had gotten his kids back, that this may not have happened?
Well, I think that's probable. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that this wasn't John snapping, but rather this is John disintegrating over months.
In that bitter custody dispute, Isa Nichols, a woman who once worked for Muhammad, sided with his ex-wife and helped her get the kids back. Well, this is Isa Nichols' home, and police now believe that on the night of February 16th, Nichols was the intended victim when somebody came and knocked on her door. The victim turned out to be Kenya Cook, Nichols' 21-year-old niece, who was shot with a .45 caliber handgun. The February murder in this residential neighborhood of Tacoma, Washington went unsolved, and at the time, nobody suspected John Muhammad or Lee Malvo, but it may well have been the beginning of a nationwide rampage. Police have now officially linked their gun to the shooting. A little more than a month after Kenya Cook was killed in Tacoma, Washington, in what may have been an act of revenge, there was a random shooting here on this golf course in Tucson, Arizona. On March 19th, about 1:30 in the afternoon, 60-year-old Jerry Taylor was picking up golf balls here in this brush when he was killed instantly by a single shot. It's believed it came from a high-power rifle somewhere back in that desert. Muhammad and Malvo were in Tucson at the time, visiting Muhammad's sister, who happened to live less than a mile from the golf course. Although the ballistics don't match the weapons used in the Beltway sniper shootings, Tucson's police chief has a gut feeling.
It looks very strong. They committed horrendous crimes throughout the United States. In fact, the crimes that they committed are very similar to the killing of Mr. Jerry Taylor.
After their visit to Tucson, the two men returned to the Northwest, and a college student here in Bellingham, Washington, who'd gotten to know Muhammad at a local YMCA and worked out with him, invited the two men to a barbecue. This photo taken at the party shows a smiling John Muhammad, and on the left, Lee Malvo. Shortly after, the men were invited to stay for a few days. Two of the roommates spoke about the experience.
We were just trying to help these guys out.
You feel naive now?
A little bit, yeah. We're always brainstorming to see, gosh, were there any clues? Were there any signs?
Did you believe it at first?
I don't know if I still believe it, to tell you the truth. Now, obviously, there's a different side to them, which is pretty scary to think. And the fact that we let them into our house.
And if the timeline is correct, you actually encountered these guys after they had started this spree. You don't feel like, wow, it's a good thing I didn't make these guys angry at me.
I don't. I've had people ask me that. Do you think if you would have said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing, that they would have taken you out, quote unquote? And no, not at all.
Are you sorry you met them?
No, and I would do it again. Maybe you could make a difference in someone's life, and it would keep them from doing something like this because you reached out to them.
Was there anything to suggest that this is something that these two could have done?
No, not from the individuals that we knew. Very polite, took care of some chores around the house, cleaned up after themselves. What you think of as the perfect house guest.
The two men left the Northwest in July, and nobody who came across their paths ever thought that the next time they would hear the names Muhammad and Malvo, it would be in connection with one of the worst shooting sprees in this country's history? For the Early Show, John Frankel, CBS News, Bellingham, Washington.
No formal charges have been filed yet in Washington state. Arizona officials are still investigating the Tucson murder.